Hey guys, in this video I will talk about security of your data tables, specifically as it relates to user accounts. In my application, I do have one user account. You can see it in the users table. It's an account with the email address of mark@backendless.com. And I also have one data table called character with some characters from SpongeBob. The security that I would like to demonstrate is to show how various security permissions assigned to this specific user apply to various aspects of working with the data with this particular data table. To control security for users, what I'm going to do is I will switch to the permissions tab, and then here it lists all the users in my application. In this case, as I said, there is one, with various columns mapped to various operations that this particular user can perform on this data table. The permissions that you see here are inherited from the roles that this user belongs to. And since this is a default setup, every user that is created in your application at the very minimum and by default will belong to the authenticated user role. So all of these permissions are being inherited from the authenticated user role. So right now, if I were to switch to the REST console interface, which is an interface that provides a way to execute API calls using the REST protocol against this table, if I were to run get, I can get all the data from this particular data table. But I'm executing it as a not authenticated user because I am not logged in yet. So to simulate this user and to start executing APIs as that specific user that I have, I would need to log in. So right now I will log in this account that I created. The console shows me as the logged in user. And if I were to run get, now I can get all this data as this particular user. So let's do the very first thing and deny data retrieval for this user. So what I'm going to do is I will click through this icon for the find operation until I get this red X. Now if I go back to REST console, I'm still logged in as this user. And if I were to run the get operation, notice that I get an empty response back, which is the behavior of Backendless whenever a user does not have the permission to fetch data. Going back to the permissions and granting this permission, if I go back to REST console and click get, now I can get this data. The same is true for all other operations. So for example, let's say that I'm going to deny access to the update operation for this user. And then going back here, if I were to take one of these data objects and change the character name from Gary to Sandy. And now if I click put, you see that I get a message back from Backendless saying that the user has no permission to update entity. And the reason we get this error back is because the permission to update has been denied. The same is true for all other operations, such as creating new objects, deleting objects, getting a description of the schema for this table, changing permissions, creating relations. So all of these can be controlled at the user level, and they override the permissions that are inherited from the roles that this user belongs to.